I will never forget the way it all went down, not with a bang, but with a cold sentence delivered behind the glass of the 41st floor. Vivian Blake, as of today you are no longer part of Helix Core. Conflict of interest. Effective immediately. Beckett Royce, the young and angry new CEO, did not meet my eyes when he said it. I had thought of him as a tech genius, a young leader who would change the world. I added. He was not a genius. He was a planner, smart enough to hide a knife behind his back and laugh as he threw it at someone. I had been with Helix Core since its earliest days, when it was a nobody, when I wrote growth strategies on old whiteboards with felt-tip pens. I didn't just build the foundation, I was the foundation. I didn't need an executive chair to prove it. But when I walked out of the conference room today, everyone looked at me like I was a ghost, a veteran wiped out in a single pass. No one asked why. No one had an edge. I didn't read. I didn't get angry. I just kept quiet. Because Beckett didn't know that I wasn't leaving empty-handed. And I would be back, not to apologize, but to demand that they give it all back. I didn't split the city. I couldn't run away. For the next 3 days, I lived as a shadow among the cold glass buildings of the financial center, where I had been touted as Helix Core's strategic brain. The media knew nothing. There was no official announcement. My firing was wrapped up in the guise of restructuring. Beckett was too smart to create a scandal. But I had suspected it months ago. The attacks were cancelled. The contents of this document were restricted. The numbers on the financials don't add up. I thought there was some money manipulation behind the co-directors' backs, but I didn't expect to find myself sitting on the most powerful device. Beckett Royce. Genius created. Leadership by borrowed reputation. I started the chain. In my final months at the company, I kept secret backups, a hidden monitoring software I'd created to detect financial fraud as strategy director. I'd once suspected a partner, but now it was the key to the hell Beckett was trying to hide. Tonight, in my small apartment, I opened the monitoring software. The screen lit up with a series of red flags, unexpected transactions, hidden accounts, internal identifiers linked directly to. Then came Beckett's personal emails. He had created a micro-black scheme, siphoning off legitimate backends and hapless investment channels under the guise of product renewal. It was all part of financial restructuring, a term vague enough to give you an eye test. I was in everything, every line of code, every email log, every word signed in my name. He had used my digital signature to streamline at least 3 shady transactions. It wasn't just betrayal, it was criminal. I ran up. Not out of fear, but out of anger. I had trusted, given opportunities, paved the way for Beckett to enter the tech world as a listening ear. I had defended him against a restraining order when they were in doubt. And he had responded by making me the scapegoat. I can't tell this story cleanly. But I also knew that going in without a plan would only get me crushed under the wheels of power. Beckett had the legal team, the PR team, the political connections. I had the facts. But I also had something else, visibility. And a few people owed me a favor. I sent an encrypted message to Ethan Black, the former head of security who had left the company quietly after discovering ethical violations that no one acknowledged. I asked him exactly one question: are you ready to make them listen? 10 minutes later, he replied, I have no proof and don't hold anything back. Ethan and I met in a water garage in Midvale, which had been a data exchange point for the internal cybersecurity team a few years ago. He stepped out of a black SUV, his expression as stoic as ever, but his eyes lit up when he saw the documents in my hands. Jesus Christ, Ethan chewed through the pages. This is enough to shut down Helix Core and send Beckett to jail. He raised his voice. Are you sure you want to go all the way? I didn't answer. I just opened my laptop and took out the hard drive. Here's the original encryption. The entire chain of transactions, decrypted. If he still has our old decryption software, use it. Ethan nodded. No further response was needed. We spent the rest of the day sharing the work. Ethan went through the financials, tracking down all the front-end work Beckett had done. I started assembling an old team, people I'd trained, now scattered across tech, law, and media. The plan had to be perfect. I didn't want one person to initiate it. I wanted the truth to come out publicly and uncontested. And I wanted Beckett not just punished, but exposed, to the board, shareholders, the media, and the tech world. On Tuesday night, I heard from Ava Monroe, a famous investigative liberal who had exposed the Kovacs tech data mess the following year. She was a former classmate at Stanford, and she owed me a favor when I helped her get out of a shady event. Now, she was ready to repay the debt. I need access to the data and an exclusive interview, Ava said. If this story is as big as you say, it will be the biggest bang of the year. Only if I give him the green light, I replied. I need him to feel like he's still winning. For a week, I kept quiet. Beckett had no idea I was preparing to strike. He was in the business press, laughing about the new era of Helix Core, launching PR campaigns to exploit the internal turmoil. I was the ghost. The forgotten man. The outsider. Until Friday. The Helix Core organization had organized a press conference to announce a new partnership in Dubai, a trade show I had designed. I emailed Ava anonymously, ready. I arrived at the building as a regular guest. Hair tied back. White shirt. A fake customer ID. Security didn't recognize me. The elevator took me straight to the 47th floor, where the meeting was taking place. Beckett was in the middle of a speech. The projector illuminated his smug face. Then the fake phones rang. A message from Ava Monroe, exclusive, Helix Core CEO implicated in multi-level financial scandal. Internal investigation reveals detailed evidence. Attached was a link to the entire file. Emails. Documents. Legal analysis. Retrieved trace codes. Presentation only presented, no responses. The room was set up. Beckett paused mid-sentence, eyes glued to the screen of a member of the executive committee's phone. Whispers rose like a storm. Presenting the information needed. I stood at the back of the room, silently watching his face change from surprise to fear. There was no equipment in the field as thin as a thin lens. The buzzing of cameras, calls from the community, and the ringing of telephones repairing communications, all merged into a digital error. On the way, Beckett stood there, face white. The CEO of the CEO position would no longer be redundant a few minutes ago. I quietly backed out of the room and crossed the path to the executive elevator. The key card in my pocket was still valid. Beckett hadn't yet met the key access requirements. I activated the 49th floor, the executive suite. Ethan was there with two board members, Claudia Harrow, the veteran CFO, and Lin Chang, the shareholder representative from Equinox. When I entered, they both looked up at me as if they were seeing a ghost from the past. "Ms. Ward," Chang nodded, "I think we need to talk." Without much prompting, Ethan referred to the main screen for the entire analysis of Beckett's chain of shell companies, from the Caymans to Luxembourg, from phantom investments to loans with unimaginable interest rates approved in a matter of hours. All the money flowed back to an account controlled by Beckett. "I don't understand how the positions didn't see this sooner," I said, not hiding my coldness. "We're blinded by reputation, and blind trust." Ethan interrupted. "They're down there. The whole shareholder traffic is waiting for an explanation. If Helix Core doesn't act now, the stock will crash within 48 hours. I opened a folder, pulling out a standardized copy of the pre-existing restructuring plan. "I'm not here to prove Beckett's words. I'm here to prove that Helix Core can still be saved, if they act now." Claudia scanned the pages, her eyes lighting up. Mr. Chang pressed the phone down on the floor. "Get Mr. Beckett up here. Now." Less than 10 minutes later, the door swung open. Beckett walked in, his shirt wrinkled, his tie askew. His gaze swept around and stopped where I was sitting. "Olivia," he said softly. "Vivian, you did this." I stood up. "No, Beckett. You did this. I was just the one who exposed the truth." Beckett took another step, deciding something, but Mr. Chang stopped her with a tired hand. "You violated professional ethics, concealed information about the board, and the core culture of the company." Claudia threw the file on the desk. "This is evidence enough to create an event." Beckett sneered. "You think you're going to kick me out just because an old kid comes back?" I looked him straight in the eye. "I'm not the former employee. I'm the one who built the strategy department, the one who put the first notice in Kingswell, and the one you've gotten away with. You didn't just misjudge me. You misjudged the entire corporate structure I once protected." There was a long silence. Then Claudia spoke. "The board has voted. You are in office with immediate effect. Your legal advisors will contact you." Beckett said nothing. He just stood there in the doorway. The door closed behind him like the end of a false dynasty. I sat down, feeling as if I could breathe for the first time in years. Not because I had won, but because justice had finally been done. 3 days after the fateful contest, I stood in the top-floor office of Helix Core, which had once been Beckett's domain. The large windows still reflected the skyline, but the scene was different now. There was no more of the fake authority, no more of the simmering anxiety among the employees passing through the hallways. Instead, there was an air of caution, of anticipation, and of hope. The board had temporarily appointed me as the chief clinical officer during the crisis. When I stepped up to address the all-hands meeting, nearly everyone was there, from the research department to the front desk. Every eye turned to me. "I know what just happened was a huge shock to all of us," I began, my voice cracking. "Beckett Owens betrayed the trust this company placed in him. But that doesn't mean Helix Core. It's you, the people who work quietly every day, who are the true soul of this place." I shared my plan to urgently restructure the finances, eliminate the ghost branches, set up a transparent internal control system, and set up an anonymous whistleblower line for employees. But I also emphasized that trust cannot be rebuilt with documents or words alone. I don't expect you to believe me right away. I just promise that I will work to be worthy of that trust, every day. After the exam, I went down the floors, talking to employees, asking for their architectural opinions, listening to the frustrations that no one had expressed before. Those who had been left out by Beckett were eager to be called back to the showroom, this time for the fourth time as strategic partners in the company's recovery. Claudia and Chung supported me in my work, while Ethan took on the role of problem solver, controlling all the financial consequences of Beckett to return. From that moment on, Helix Core was no longer a fake empire, but an organization that people could be proud to belong to. 6 months later, I stood on the balcony of my office, looking down at the city as it lit up. Helix Core had not only survived the shock, it had succeeded. The press called us the financial phoenix, but for me, the proudest thing was the smiles that returned to the office, the thank you emails from employees who had left in despair. The board asked me to stay on as CEO. I agreed, not for the prestige, but because I believed that Helix Core deserved a true future. I also understood that this story did not end with Beckett's downfall, but the beginning of a new program, where no one would be overlooked because of their gender, title, or peaceful appearance. I cut short the discussion of a new plan, Helix Core Green, our first sustainability initiative. I'm smiling. The fight is real, but I'm still here. And this time, I'm not surviving. My first path.